Have you ever wondered why you always end up procrastinating? Waiting until the very last minute before you finally get to work? The truth is, that last minute rush to get something done right before the deadline isn't just a bad habit. It actually has the characteristics of an addiction. Yes, I mean addiction. This kind of procrastination runs on the same mechanics as abusing a type of internal drug. Your brain's natural stimulants that kick in during moments of stress to help you feel more alert, focused, and energized. That last-minute pressure gives you a temporary high, a quick buzz that makes you feel hyped up, even if only for a short time. That's why so many people get stuck in this cycle of procrastination. Even though they know it creates stress, drains their energy, and can seriously mess with their mental and physical health. They keep doing it. And ironically, the people who probably need to watch this video the most are likely the ones who will put it off until later, because they're literally in the middle of procrastinating. They're the ones thinking, I'll watch it later, or I'll deal with this another time, and then they put it off again. So if you feel like you're caught in that same loop, if you want to understand why your brain works this way, and more importantly, how to break free from this dangerous habit, then this episode is for you. We all know how harmful procrastination can be. It's cost us so many opportunities. Opportunities to truly show up as our best selves. Opportunities to discover how capable we actually are, or whether we're even a good fit for certain jobs or challenges. And sometimes even the chance to realize that we deserve the kind of big results or success we've always dreamed of. Many people are fully aware that procrastination has held them back in huge ways, and yet they still keep procrastinating, even on solving their procrastination problem. And can you believe it? The act of putting things off until the last second, then jumping up to get it done in a frenzy, that behavior is highly addictive. As addictive as drugs, because it taps into the same brain chemistry that gives you that surge of feel-good chemicals. And that's what we're going to explore in today's episode. Why procrastination is so incredibly hard to kick, and why it keeps pulling us back in. But first, let's be real with each other for a second. Do you struggle with procrastination? And if you do, how many of you have already tried all sorts of tips and tricks to beat it? Things like making more professional to-do lists and plans, learning time management or project management skills, building accountability groups to push yourself to take action, using reward and punishment systems to motivate yourself, and then after about 3 or 4 weeks, you come to a painful realization. Nothing worked. Nothing changed. You're back to square one. Sound familiar? So before we dive any deeper, I want you to take a moment. Pause the video if you have to and do this. Drop a quick comment below. Take a second to reflect. What kind of things have you been procrastinating on? What anti-procrastination tools or techniques have you tried? And honestly, how well did they actually work for you? Do it now. Don't procrastinate on this too. Because once you actually write this stuff down, I'm going to help you break it all down so we can figure out why things didn't work and what needs to change. So go ahead, write it down. Don't put it off anymore. I'm trusting that you already left your comment, right? All right, now let's dig into the heart of this procrastination problem. Are you ready? Let's go. First off, procrastination is a behavior that develops throughout our upbringing and life experiences. It's not some built-in personality trait. You get what I mean? Because I've had people tell me things like, that's just how I am. I've always been like this. I need that pressure to get anything done. I can't change. Really? You sure about that? If I took you right now to go pick out the newest iPhone as a gift, would you procrastinate? If I told you we're taking a spontaneous trip to the Grand Canyon, would you hesitate? Or if I said, hey, open the door, someone's outside with a gift you've been dreaming of for years, would you wait to go see what it is? Of course not. You'd move immediately, right? So no, procrastination is not who you are. It's not your personality. It's not your identity. You only procrastinate when it comes to certain things, right? Even when a baby is born and starts their journey in this world, they don't have the habit of procrastination. When a baby is hungry, they immediately cry and scream for food. They don't wait. They don't think, let me wait until I'm really starving before I speak up. In fact, they're pretty diligent. They wake up like clockwork every 2 hours. 2 a.m., 4 a.m., 6 a.m., crying for milk. Like a built-in alarm system. Waking up every 2 hours on the dot. No procrastination, no laziness, just action. And it's the same with every baby. Which tells us something very important. Procrastination and laziness are not part of our original design. They're not part of our nature when we're born. So that means procrastination is a learned behavior. It's something that develops as we grow up. And understanding that, it's a game changer. Because once you realize procrastination isn't who you are, it's just a pattern you picked up, then you can stop trying to hack it with surface level tools and instead start getting to the root of it. Because if all you do is chop off the top of the weed, but the root is still in the ground, guess what? That weed's coming back. Lush, green, and stronger than ever. So the real question becomes, when does a child start to develop procrastination or laziness? Of course, it's different for everyone. But if we're being honest, if we had to point to the one thing most of us experienced in common, it's probably this. We started developing procrastination habits when we were kids. When exactly? Was it during playtime? While watching TV, playing video games, or scrolling on our phones? No, not at all. It was when we started going to school. Right? Now, maybe not with every subject, but there was always something. A few classes that felt boring, or certain teachers who made us feel uninspired or disconnected. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not here to bash the school system. But with the way most education is designed, mass, standardized, one-size-fits-all, it's just unrealistic to expect every student to be excited about every subject and to love every teacher's way of teaching. So what happens? A child spends more than a decade going through school, being forced to complete subjects they don't care about, listening to teachers they don't connect with, doing assignments they don't find meaningful. And naturally, that child starts to resist. They start pushing things off. They develop a coping mechanism, one we now call procrastination. Why does this happen? Because it's boring, it's draining. There's no excitement, no sense of meaning. The child doesn't understand how what they're doing now will ever be useful for their future. And that sense of disconnection is where procrastination is first born. That's the very first root of resistance. Now, the second reason becomes clear as we grow older, gain more life experience, or start working professionally. That's when something strange starts to happen. We're faced with tasks that we know are important. Things that directly impact our income, our goals, even things we're actually passionate about. And yet, we still procrastinate. We still delay. We still avoid. Why? Because we're scared, right? You hesitate to call a client because you're afraid of being rejected. You put off that one-on-one meeting with your boss because you're afraid of being criticized or judged. You avoid taking the next step in a relationship because you're afraid of commitment or getting hurt. These fears don't come out of nowhere. They're rooted in past pain. Moments when we failed, when we got hurt, when someone's words or actions made us feel like we weren't good enough. And over time, that fear grows into procrastination. So whether it's work, life, or love, we procrastinate because we're afraid. So in short, boredom, lack of interest, and fear rooted in past pain and failure, those are the two core reasons why procrastination takes hold in our lives. But before we get into how to actually deal with these two causes, let's take a little detour. It might sound a bit dramatic, but I promise it's deeply important. Let's talk about when procrastination becomes an addiction, because this is where we start digging deep into the roots of human behavior. To help you understand why, once procrastination has taken hold, it only gets harder and harder to break free from. Here's the thing, if you procrastinate long enough, you'll eventually slip into a behavior that, while harmful in the long run, is extremely addictive and gives you an intense rush of short-term pleasure right in the moment. It's a form of survival instinct being misused, specifically the brain's natural response to high-pressure situations. You start relying on the thrill, the adrenaline hit that comes from racing against the clock. And if you've ever experienced that, well, you know exactly what I mean. You wait until the very last minute. The pressure builds. Stress kicks in. Adrenaline surges through your body. And in that chaos, there's a weird kind of high, a rush, a feeling of flow that feels powerful and even euphoric, if only for a short time. And if that sounds like you, then let's be honest with ourselves and break this behavior down together. Because on paper, everyone knows procrastination is bad. We all know the drill. Waiting until the last minute. Scrambling to finish things under extreme pressure. Burning yourself out in the process. It disrupts your sleep, your health, your peace of mind. It messes with your daily rhythm, causes stress, and steals your time to rest and recharge. And worst of all, it usually results in lower quality work. We've all heard this before, right? It's in the books, the blogs, the self-help talks. Everyone says the same thing. We all know this stuff. But here's the thing. If you really take a closer look, everyone who's ever depended on a deadline, who survived those all-nighters back in college, and then carried that same habit into adult working life, you all probably know exactly what I'm talking about. You felt that crazy sense of awe at your own abilities. In those high-stakes, do-or-die moments, you suddenly discover this side of yourself. This razor-sharp focus, mental toughness, fast thinking, and sometimes incredible creativity. It's beautiful. It's like tapping into a level of performance you didn't even know you had. A version of yourself that's fully awake, fully activated. Like you've summoned some divine inner being that's been sleeping inside you all this time. Am I right? In those tense last-minute moments, ironically, you actually get to feel something amazing. It's kind of magical, isn't it? So if you've ever experienced that rush, from your student days to your career now, be honest and report to the local authorities. Pause for a sec, drop a comment, let me know if that resonates with you. Don't procrastinate. This one's fun. I don't just want to share with you. I want to hear your stories too. Because when I look back, I realize I first learned how to summon that divine mode back in college. Thanks to a very close friend of mine. So here's how the story goes. One day, my friend came home and casually said, "I've got a mountain of homework, piled up, all due tomorrow." I was shocked by how calm and chill he was. So I asked him, "If you've got so much to do, why aren't you working on it right now?" And he just shrugged and said, "Relax, it's not time yet." I lost it. Are you crazy? Get started already. If not now, then when? But all he said was, just wait. When things get really intense, that's when you'll see what I'm capable of. Then at exactly 11 p.m., it was like the universe sent him a signal. He sat down and started working. He didn't stop until nearly 4 in the morning. Then he collapsed and went to sleep. And the unbelievable part, in those 4 hours, he finished the kind of workload that would normally take someone 2 full days. Amazing, unbelievable, mind-blowing. And you know who that friend was? Yeah, I bet you figured it out by now. That friend was me, back in my school days. How many of you listening right now have had a similar experience? I'd really love for you to share your stories in the comment section below. So let's just be real with each other for a moment. I'm no superhero. I've been there too. I've spent years worshiping that last-minute ritual, pushing things off until the very end, waiting for the pressure to hit its peak. And then, summoning that so-called divine mode of myself, borrowing its strength for just long enough to pull off a miracle and get things done in a flash. Of course, this is life we're talking about. And in life, when you borrow strength, you always have to pay it back. If you borrow power from that divine mode of yourself, then the next day, you're going to have to settle the bill. And sometimes, you'll be paying for days. You'll need time to recover, to rest long enough to get your energy back. And just when you're finally feeling okay again, you see the next deadline creeping up on you. And what do? You summon the divine mode again. And that was the vicious cycle I lived in throughout my entire freshman year of college. Borrow, pay, borrow, over and over again. Until one day I realized my energy was draining, my emotions were wearing thin, my health was slipping, and after all that, what did I have to show for it? Just barely passing grades. It wasn't until much later, when I started diving deeper into human behavior and how our bodies work, that I finally began to understand the true source of that divine mode and the real cost it demands from you every time you call on it. All right, coming up in the next 2 to 3 minutes, we're going to dive into some biology and neuroscience terms. But don't worry, stay calm and stick with me. Because only by understanding these mechanisms can we truly decode the special power of the divine mode, that super focused state you hit right before a deadline. Here's the secret to summoning your divine mode: procrastination. Until your body feels like it's in danger. The key word here is danger. When your body senses a real threat, your brain immediately triggers your adrenal glands to release 2 critical stress hormones, adrenaline and cortisol, to activate your survival mode. Adrenaline causes your heart rate to skyrocket, pushing blood flow through your entire body. Your lungs' airways and alveoli expand, letting in more oxygen. Meanwhile, blood vessels in your peripheral organs like your hands, feet, and digestive system constrict, redirecting blood to your brain, lungs, and heart, the most vital organs for staying alive. The result: your brain floods with a massive supply of oxygen-rich blood, waking you up completely. All your senses sharpen, your awareness spikes. Sounds amazing, right? Next up is cortisol. This hormone kicks your glucose metabolism into high gear, raising your blood sugar levels. That surge of energy gives your organs plenty of fuel to operate at full power, fighting nonstop against whatever threat you're facing. But that's not all. Cortisol also acts as an anti-inflammatory and suppresses your immune system, allowing your body to keep going without feeling tired. Because in survival mode, like being at war, your body simply doesn't recognize fatigue. Here's something else cool. When adrenaline and cortisol are released together, your brain activates something called short-term emotional memory. That's your brain's way of quickly remembering all the little details and information around you, so it can categorize the danger you're facing and help you avoid it in the future. For example, the bushes rustle twice. Then there are 3 soft crack sounds. Silence for 3 seconds. And then a snake suddenly shoots out from under the bushes, so don't be surprised if when you're in this state, you can absorb information insanely fast. You might even memorize everything for that exam tomorrow, like a total genius. The only catch? After the test, you forget all of it, because it was only stored in short-term memory. Finally, after you finish your work, when the danger has passed, something interesting happens. Your brain triggers the release of beta endorphins. These are your body's natural painkillers, like a mild morphine, meant to soothe all the aches and stresses your organs went through during the battle. Endorphins give you that euphoric, blissful feeling, a wave of relief and lightness, like a reward after all the pain and pressure you just endured. To sum it up, from start to finish of this whole process, your body is flooded with stimulants. No joke. And that's exactly why you can fight like a wild Spartan warrior under pressure. From a biological perspective, adrenaline, cortisol, and endorphins are all natural chemicals designed with a good purpose to protect you when you're facing danger. But when we abuse these chemicals by falling into the habit of procrastination, the price our bodies pay is very high. Your hormonal balance gets completely thrown off. Your immune system weakens. Your digestive system gets disrupted. You suffer from stress, heart problems, emotional instability. You lose control over your weight. You may even become malnourished. In short, your health starts to seriously decline the more you rely on this cycle. So, what do we get in return for all that damage? Just average, barely passing results. Because no matter how much of a superhero or divine mode you think you are, the time left is simply too little to create your best, highest quality work. And here's the classic line from every procrastination addict. I just wish I had 2 more hours. I'd finish this one more thing. Add that extra design and it would be perfect. Or, if only I had 2 more days. And because of that, you'll never truly show your full potential. You'll never really know how good you could be. In the end, just like any addict, you'll keep upping the dose to chase that rush. First, surviving with 1 day before the deadline. Then needing 12 hours before the deadline to feel the buzz. Then 6 hours before to finally get in the mood. And eventually, just 3 hours before the deadline. At that point, not even God can save you, let alone your divine mode. And then it happens. Boom. You miss the deadline. You fail the course. You submit a flawed project. Game over. That's how it goes, folks. Money gone, problems gained. Scary, right? So here's the big question. How do we break this addiction? How do we escape the endless loop of chasing the divine mode and the last-minute rush? Because if you can't fix that procrastination habit, that adrenaline addiction, you won't be able to beat procrastination for good. And here's the interesting part. The secret is keep using your divine mode, but this time use it to reach 110% results, to thrive in your work, not just to barely get through the test. Pretty interesting, right? This is a strange but powerful secret I learned from a globally famous speaker, Andrew Matthews. He shared it with me when we were chatting together in the speaker's lounge at the Singapore Education Summit back in 2011. I was a guest speaker at that event too. While we were hanging out in the prep room, I was amazed to see Andrew still tweaking his talk, even though his session was only 2 hours away. When I asked him about it, he told me, he always prepares and finishes about 80 to 90% of his presentation well ahead of time. But the last 10%, he saves that until right before his talk. Because when he arrives, sees the audience and feels the energy in the room, in that final moment, he comes up with tons of breakthrough ideas and perfects his talk to the highest level. Pretty fascinating, right? I was honestly amazed when I learned that little trick. And to be honest, later on you'll realize this. Masters always start early. They finish about 90% of their work ahead of time and save the last 10%, the final touch, for that last moment. In that moment, they activate survival mode, spark their most impressive breakthroughs, and push their results to 100%, even 110%. Since this usually doesn't take much time, you won't get overwhelmed by stress. Plus, you'll be able to show 100%, 105%, even 110% of your true potential. That experience won't just help you pass. It'll help you graduate with flying colors, A's and A+. That's an incredible feeling. When you hit that peak performance, your brain releases serotonin and oxytocin, two very special hormones, helping you balance your emotions, feel calm and confident, and most importantly, feel loved. These hormones are fantastic for your health. They even make you start craving that euphoric feeling of showing off your talent and getting those top grades. You get what I mean? And that's when your life really starts to change course. I'm telling you straight up, this little secret I just shared is backstage knowledge, only shared between speakers like us. So consider this episode as me pouring my heart out, sharing everything with you all. Finally, once you break that addiction cycle, we'll be ready to calmly tackle the two root causes of procrastination. The first is overcoming fear rooted in past pain and failure. To do that, you'll need some knowledge and skills, which I'll be sharing with you soon in upcoming episodes. The second one is overcoming boredom. Honestly, this is when you need to train yourself to identify your goals. Find the activities that truly spark your curiosity and excitement. Understand your strengths and weaknesses, and figure out the directions that best fit your abilities. And this is exactly why I created this YouTube channel, to help you get past boredom in life, rediscover yourself, and heal those old wounds from the past. All right, at the end of the day, through this video, what I want you to see is that real change only comes when you understand and fix things at the root. Don't just jump on the latest trends or quick fix gimmicks. That's the peaceful, natural philosophy of education I believe we should all pursue. But if by now you still want to keep procrastinating, well, I give up. At that point, I'll just entrust you to your divine mode, and it will lead you down that thrilling, exciting, heart-pounding path. Good luck with that, and I'll see you in the next episodes.